I helped my girlfriend cure her anorexia. She broke up with me but still wants my help. I refused to help her. It was a crisp morning in September when our paths first crossed. The campus buzzed with the usual hustle of graduate students, each engrossed in their own quests for academic success. Among the sea of faces, there was something about her that caught my attention. Perhaps it was the way she sat in the back corner of the classroom, quiet yet intensely focused, or maybe it was the almost ethereal fragility she seemed to carry with her. She was petite so much so that it seemed as though a gust of wind might sweep her away. Her pale complexion and hollow cheeks gave away secrets she likely wished to keep hidden, and her eyes, though strikingly beautiful, carried an unmistakable sadness, as if they had seen far too much of the world's harshness in such a short span of time. At 26, I had been working toward my master's degree with single-minded determination, yet something about this girl stirred a curiosity in me that I couldn't quite explain. As luck would have it, we were paired together for a semester-long project, a twist of fate that brought us into each other's orbits. It didn't take long to realize that she was brilliant, her mind a treasure trove of insights and ideas, but her voice often wavered as though she questioned her right to speak them aloud. She was polite, perhaps excessively so, but there was a guardedness about her, a fortress erected to shield herself from the world. Our initial interactions were strictly professional, centered around the project we had been assigned. Yet, as we spent hours in the library and at coffee shops, I began to notice more. The way she often pushed her food around her plate without eating much. The way her hands trembled slightly when she typed. The way her energy seemed to deplete entirely by the end of our meetings. One afternoon, as the autumn leaves fell like golden confetti outside the cafe window, she hesitated before admitting something deeply personal. "I've been struggling," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "with anorexia and depression. And, well, a lot of things." Her eyes darted nervously to her lap, as if expecting judgment or pity. Her vulnerability hit me like a freight train. I didn't know what to say at first, afraid that the wrong words might worsen her pain. But as she continued, sharing fragments of a battle that had consumed much of her young life, I felt an inexplicable urge to help. She confessed how her self-esteem had been eroded over years of criticism and comparison, how the mirror had become her enemy, and how she struggled to find a reason to even get out of bed some days. At that moment, I saw her not as a fragile stranger but as someone who desperately needed a lifeline. I was no therapist, no doctor, but I did know something about the transformative power of physical activity. Fitness had been my anchor since I was 19, a ritual that not only sculpted my body but also fortified my mind. It had given me confidence, discipline, and a sense of purpose. Perhaps it could do the same for her? "Have you ever thought about trying the gym?" I asked cautiously, unsure if my suggestion would come across as helpful or intrusive. Not for weight or appearance, but to feel stronger, both physically and mentally. "It's helped me a lot. Maybe it could help you too." She looked up at me, her expression a mixture of surprise and skepticism. "The gym? I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to start." "We could go together," I offered impulsively. "Step by step, no pressure. And I know a dietitian who's great with creating plans that aren't just about food but about feeling good overall. What do you think?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile, a glimmer of hope, perhaps. "I'll think about it." Over the next few days, she mulled it over before agreeing to give it a try. The first visit to the gym was, as expected, a challenge. She was hesitant and self-conscious, her movements timid and unsure. But with each session, something remarkable began to happen. She started to push through her insecurities, her cheeks flushed with newfound determination. Little by little, I saw her body regain strength and her spirit rekindle with a spark of vitality that had long been absent. This journey wasn't just about physical transformation, it was about reclaiming herself from the shadows that had consumed her for so long. I became her cheerleader, her coach, and her friend. And in the process, Our connection deepened into something neither of us had anticipated. The beginning was, as I had expected, difficult. There were days when she didn't want to leave her apartment, days when she doubted whether the effort was worth it. I vividly remember the first time she struggled to lift even the lightest weights, her face red with frustration and embarrassment. She would glance around nervously, her insecurities on full display, as if expecting judgment from others. I reassured her constantly, reminding her that every expert was once a beginner, that progress was built brick by brick, one small victory at a time. Gradually, those small victories began to stack up. She managed to stick to the dietitian's plan, eating slightly more with each passing week. At first, it was a battle. Her relationship with food was deeply complex, fraught with guilt and fear. But she persevered. I watched as her plate transformed from sparse, almost childlike portions to balanced, nourishing meals. She found joy in experimenting with new recipes, texting me photos of dishes she was proud to have made on her own. Each bite became a step toward reclaiming her health. Her mood, too, began to shift. The cloud of sadness that had once loomed over her started to lift. She laughed more often, sometimes at my terrible gym jokes, sometimes at her own newfound clumsiness as she navigated unfamiliar exercises. There was a lightness to her that hadn't been there before, as if the chains of her past struggles were loosening their grip. Her confidence was the most remarkable change of all. It didn't happen overnight, but there was a distinct turning point a day when she walked into the gym wearing a bright tank top instead of the oversized hoodies she used to hide in. Her posture was straighter, her steps more assured. "I feel stronger," she admitted shyly one day, her cheeks tinged with pink. It was a simple statement, but it carried a world of meaning. Somewhere along the way, as we celebrated her milestones and shared our lives beyond the gym, our friendship evolved into something deeper. We started spending more time together, not just as gym buddies but as two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. Late-night talks turned into shared dinners, and before long, I found myself falling for her. She wasn't just the girl I met in class anymore. She was someone who inspired me, someone whose strength, though still growing, was breathtaking to witness. When we began dating, it felt natural, like the next chapter in a story that was already unfolding beautifully. She opened up to me in ways that made me admire her even more. She was vulnerable yet resilient, and I made it my mission to be the anchor she needed. I told her often how proud I was of her progress, not just physically but emotionally and mentally. She had come so far from the frail, uncertain girl I had first met, and I wanted her to know that every step she took was a triumph worth celebrating. Fast forward to the present, and her transformation was nothing short of remarkable. She had gone from 40 kilograms to 50, a weight gain that symbolized so much more than numbers on a scale. It was proof of her dedication, her courage to face her fears, and her willingness to fight for a better life. Her once sunken cheeks now glowed with health, her frame no longer delicate to the point of fragility but strong and capable. The change didn't go unnoticed. She began receiving compliments. Friends, classmates, and even strangers marveled at her progress. "You look amazing," they would say, their admiration evident. She soaked it in, her shy smiles gradually replaced with a quiet confidence that lit up the room. And I was there by her side, cheering her on, reminding her every step of the way how incredible she was. Everything felt perfect, or so I thought. I was genuinely happy for her, proud beyond words of all she had achieved. We had come so far together, overcoming challenges and growing not just as individuals but as a couple. But last week, the story took an unexpected turn, one that left me grappling with emotions I hadn't anticipated. She set me down, her expression serious yet conflicted. "I think we need to talk," she began, her voice softer than usual. My stomach churned as I braced myself. What could be so urgent? Had something gone wrong? I could never have predicted the words that followed. She sat across from me, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her eyes darting between me and the table as though the courage to speak was something she had to physically summon. I had seen this look before, the hesitance, the internal struggle, but this time it felt heavier. Something was different, and the air between us carried an unfamiliar tension. "I need to tell you something," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, leaning forward slightly, my mind already racing through possible scenarios. Was she struggling again with her eating habits? Had something happened at school or with her family? I wanted to reassure her, to let her know that whatever it was, I was here for her. But her next words knocked the wind out of me. "I think we should break up." I blinked, certain I had misheard her. "What?" The word came out more sharply than I intended, my surprise evident. "I think we need to end this," she said again, her voice firmer this time but laced with an undertone of regret. I need to be single right now." The words hung in the air, absurd and impossible. My mind scrambled to make sense of them. Just days ago, everything had felt normal, better than normal, even. We had been laughing, planning, building something together. And now, without warning, she was pulling the rug out from under me. "Why?" I asked, my voice tight with disbelief. "Why now? Did I do something wrong? Is there something going on that I don't know about?" Her gaze finally met mine, and in her eyes, I saw a flicker of something I couldn't quite place. Guilt? Sadness? Fear? "No, it's not you," she said quickly, shaking her head. "You've been amazing, really. I feel like I need to focus on myself. I need space to figure out who I am without depending on anyone else." Her explanation felt hollow, like she was reciting lines she'd rehearsed in her head but didn't fully believe. I searched her face, desperate for answers that made sense. She wasn't the type to make impulsive decisions. Everything about her was deliberate, careful. So why this? Why now? "I don't get it," I said, my frustration bubbling to the surface. "We've been through so much together. I've been there for you, supported you, helped you get to where you are now. And now you want to just throw it all away." Her expression softened, and for a moment, I thought she might change her mind. "I'm not throwing it away," she said gently. "I care about you so much. But I feel like I've been relying on you too much. I need to learn to stand on my own." Her words should have comforted me, but they only stung more. I had never once thought of her as a burden or felt that she was relying on me too much. If anything, I had been proud of how far she'd come, proud to be part of her journey. And now she was telling me that the very connection we'd built was the reason she needed to leave. I let out a shaky breath, trying to steady the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "If this is what you really want," I said slowly, the weight of each word pressing down on me, "then I won't stop you. But you need to know that this hurts. A lot." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm so sorry. I don't want to hurt you. I need to do this for myself." There was nothing left to say. My heart felt heavy, my chest tight. I wanted to argue, to convince her that this was a mistake, but I knew better. You can't force someone to stay, not if their heart is already halfway out the door. "If that's what you want," I said finally, my voice hollow, "then so be it." She nodded again, her tears spilling over now. "I hope we can still be friends." Friends? The word felt like a cruel joke. How could I go from being the person she leaned on, the one she confided in and shared her life with, to just a friend? It felt like she was asking me to amputate a part of myself and pretend it didn't hurt. "I don't know," I admitted honestly. "I don't know if I can do that." Her face fell, and for a moment, I saw a flash of regret in her expression. But she didn't argue or try to change my mind. Instead, she simply nodded, as if she'd already accepted the consequences of her decision. That night, as I lay in bed replaying the conversation over and over, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her reasoning than she'd let on. Maybe she was scared of something, of vulnerability, of commitment, of the person she was becoming. Or maybe she truly believed that being on her own was what she needed. Either way, the pain was undeniable. The girl I had poured my heart into, the girl I had watched grow and thrive, had walked away, leaving me to pick up the pieces. Her request came the very next day, as if the emotional wound hadn't even had time to scab over. She showed up at the gym, her expression a mixture of apprehension and determination. I had been going through the motions of my workout, trying to focus on the rhythm of the weights, the burn in my muscles, anything but the ache in my chest. Seeing her there, though, immediately threw me off balance. "I need to talk to you," she said, her voice quiet but firm. I set down the dumbbells and turned to face her, bracing myself. "What is it?" "I don't want to stop coming to the gym," she began, her words hurried as if she feared losing her nerve. "I don't know how to do this on my own. I still need your help." Her statement caught me off guard. It was as though she had completely disregarded the weight of our breakup and what it meant for me. I stared at her, trying to process the request. After everything we had shared, everything we had gone through, she was asking me to set aside my pain and continue as if nothing had changed. "I can't," I said finally, shaking my head. "I can't do this anymore, not like this. The breakup hurt me, and I need time to deal with that. I'm not your trainer, I was your boyfriend, and now," I trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Her face fell, and I saw the panic flicker in her eyes. "I know it's a lot to ask," she said, her voice trembling. "But I'm afraid. Afraid of going back to how I was before. You've been such a big part of my progress, and I don't think I can keep going without you pushing me, motivating me." Her words were a gut punch. Part of me wanted to say yes, to be there for her the way I always had been. But I knew that if I did, it would come at the cost of my own emotional well-being. I had spent months investing in her, supporting her through every step of her journey, and now she was asking me to do it all over again without the connection, the love, the bond that had driven me before. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice firmer this time. "I really am. But I have to put myself first. I'm a human being too, and this isn't just about you. The breakup hurt me, and I can't just pretend it didn't. I need space to heal." Her expression shifted, the heart giving way to anger. "You're being selfish," she snapped, her voice rising. "You're abandoning me when I need you the most. After everything we've been through, you're just going to walk away." I felt the sting of her words but refused to let them sway me. "I'm not abandoning you," I said calmly. "I gave you everything I could. I was there for you every step of the way, and I'm proud of what you've accomplished. But I can't keep doing this at the expense of my own feelings. You made a choice to end our relationship, and that choice has consequences. I can't be the person you lean on anymore." Her eyes filled with tears, but this time, I didn't try to comfort her. It wasn't out of cruelty or indifference, it was out of self-preservation. I had spent so much energy being strong for her, lifting her up when she couldn't do it herself, that I had forgotten what it felt like to prioritize my own needs. Now, I had no choice but to draw a boundary, no matter how much it hurt. "I hope you understand," I said quietly, feeling the weight of finality in my words. She didn't respond. Instead, she turned and walked away, her shoulders hunched and her steps unsteady. Watching her leave was one of the hardest things I had ever done, but I knew in my heart that it was the right decision. In the days that followed, I wrestled with guilt and doubt. Had I been cruel? Should I have pushed my feelings aside for her sake? The questions haunted me, but deep down, I knew the answer. I wasn't cruel, I was human. I had given so much of myself to help her, and while I didn't regret it, I couldn't continue to do so at the cost of my own emotional well-being. Maybe she would find another source of support, someone who could guide her through the next phase of her journey. Or maybe she would discover a strength within herself that she didn't yet realize she had. Whatever the case, I hoped she would continue to thrive, to build on the progress she had made. As for me, I resolved to focus on my own healing, to find balance and peace in the wake of our relationship. I had done my best for her, and now it was time to do the same for myself. So, am I the asshole? Maybe to some, it might seem that way. But in the end, I believe that taking care of my own heart wasn't just necessary, it was the only way forward.